And joining us for a closer look at today's announcement is Dan Geiger, senior real estate reporter for Crain's New York business. Dan, I got to ask you, what do you think about this? This is a big move for them, and they've been here for a little while already.
Certainly, it's a huge expansion, right? I mean, Google's basically saying they're going to double their workforce here from 7,000 currently to 14,000. That's nothing to scoff at, right? That's a lot of people. These are obviously going to be good-paying jobs. One of the great things about tech is that these are jobs that pay well and give people in the city who can get these jobs and be part of this trained workforce. It's it's an incredible opportunity to be able to afford to be in the city.
Yeah, what does it mean for the local economy, though?
I mean, listen, I spoke to a real estate developer a few months back, who bought the building right across the street from Google's headquarters at 111 8th Avenue, and they paid, it's a, sort of a modest apartment building. They paid $83 million for this building. You look at the building and say, $83 million, but for them, that's the kind of investment you see, the ancillary investment, when you have a Google right across the street, right? They want to be able to put new restaurants and eateries on the ground floor of the apartment building to renovate the apartments above and cater to Google employees. So you definitely see there's a ripple effect.
Yeah, sometimes they're critical of big businesses that come in like this because then they bring in their own, like maybe a big cafe, and they have all the restaurants inside, and sometimes the workers don't leave. And so I think a lot of local businesses have that kind of concern that no one will leave the beautiful, wonderful Google headquarters.
Right. I mean, right? I think you're talking about something that's totally true. There's a push and pull here, right? These are big companies that are big economic drivers, but they can be insular, and there can be the haves and the have-nots, those who benefit from it and those who are left out. So I think you're seeing, that debate coming to the fore right now with Google, and even probably more so with Amazon with their campus in Long Island City.
Well, Google's been here for, what, a decade or so?
A decade or more, yeah.
A decade or more.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the places that they've already put their footprint? We have a map, I believe. We have a map that we can show us where they've kind of planted their flag here in New York City. Do we have that map?
I mean, I could tell you, it's pretty clear. Google planted its big flag by first leasing some space at 111 8th Avenue, right, which is, right in Chelsea, right by sort of the meatpacking district, right across from Chelsea Market. Then they bought the building, right, about a decade ago, and that really grabbed everybody's attention, right, because they paid $2 billion for it. Everyone said, my gosh, here's this big tech company coming in. They've grown at 111 8th Avenue, and then just this year, they bought the building right across the street, which I just mentioned, Chelsea Market. They paid $2.4 billion for that building. So, I mean, you're talking about over $4 billion of investment just to buy the real estate, right? And they're leasing space nearby. They're in Pier 57. They're in another building in that Chelsea area, that Chelsea sort of meatpacking area. And now, of course, they're going to have this this big, expansive 1.8 million square foot almost campus in Hudson Square, which is going to include this new building at St. John's Terminal, a big, new, it's sort of a wider, squat building.
What does this mean then for the tech industry? What do they call it? Silicon Alley. What does it mean now to have even another additional unit coming from Google here?
Hazel, I think that moniker has been what you've called the sort of the burgeoning tech industry for years and years here. I think we're sort of at this point graduating beyond that. All right? I mean, we've got Facebook here. They've got well over 1 million square feet, on Broadway, downtown. Amazon already, before the Long Island City headquarters announcement, they had already taken hundreds and hundreds of thousands of square feet in the area around Penn Station, right? They've got a huge footprint there, probably getting close to 1 million square feet, right? So we've got all these tech tenants. There's a whole ecosystem of other tech tenants like Twitter and a lot of names that, might not be household names yet, but are still in the tech industry and have good paying jobs and are doing interesting cutting edge kinds of things. And there is a synergy, right? When you do have these there's an ecosystem that people talk about. When you have these giant tenants, it does create an ecosystem. They buy companies, they do business with companies, they collaborate. So there's this thought that New York really, when you look at it, really just on a chart of who the biggest occupiers are now, it's clear, it's the banks and the tech companies.
But I still feel like even though New York is used to everything new and innovation, this kind of company coming in, especially like with Amazon coming in, it makes them a little bit nervous. And why is Google able to come in here and not ask for anything from us? Whereas Amazon had to have all of these added incentives to become a neighbor.
It's a great question, and it's a fair question. Google has said, listen, we've grown here. They've been very clear. They haven't taken any incentives. This has all been, that they've done this growth. They've paid for their space out of their own pocket. They're not getting tax breaks. Amazon is, the thing I can say for Amazon is they are committing to an unprecedented amount of space and an unprecedented amount of hiring. Amazon is coming in and they're saying they're going to hire 25,000 jobs. Again, double the workforce that Google currently has here, roughly, and they're going to pay an average of $150,000 a year for these jobs. So there's just never been, I mean, the governor and the mayor were very adamant in saying, we've never seen a commitment like that out of the gate. So that's why those state and city officials are saying they're getting special consideration.
Yeah, but thankfully, at least for Google's sake, their transition into the city wasn't quite so rocky.
Google loves to point that out. I think Amazon and them have a little bit of a rivalry, so they love to point that out.
Well, Dan Geiger, thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Hazel.